We are the One Story Podcast. We believe in the power of a story. Everyone has a story, and that story is meaningful. Your story can make a difference. Your story can inspire others. Your story is important. At the same time, ultimately, everyone's story is a part of one story, the big God story.
It's not what you said. You're not who you said you were. When are you alone? When will you come back home?
Hello, everyone. This is the One Story Podcast. My name is Drew, and I'm with my friend Isaac.
What's up, player?
Doing well. What's up with you?
I don't know. I was kind of aggressive. I don't know.
Got all scared. It's all good. He was scared, everyone.
I don't know what to say.
He was scared. We got my sister on the show today. This is episode 37. Did I already say that? I don't think so.
You said in the last take.
The last take. This is take 2. We have Katelyn Duran on the show, and so it's another good one. And
I was Visenor.
Yeah. I always forget she has a different last name. Married to my brother-in-law Scott, who was on the show, episode 3. You can check him out too.
Poison of Unforgiveness. I like that. I like the title.
He has a good title. Yeah.
Well, I just want to throw it out there. I just walk around sometimes, look at people and say the poison of unforgiveness, and then just walk away.
Yeah. Yeah, but once again, we just want to say thank you for who's listening. Just thanks for the support. We hope that you're spreading it with friends and family and whoever you think might gain from listening to the One Story Podcast, because it's just, we're here to highlight, what Jesus is doing in people's lives and hearing their stories.
Amen, brother, man.
We're asking for reviews from you guys on iTunes, on Stitcher, how you listen to your podcast. There's a spot to rate and review. We ask it every time, but it's just important. It helps out for us to
and
grow.
Remember, there's a prize at stake now.
Well, yeah. Keep on listening or keep on reviewing. You know what the prize is. And so we appreciate it when people do reach out, when they do leave reviews and ratings. It helps us out in the podcast world being visible.
And ultimately, we just want other people to come across it so they can hear these amazing stories.
Yeah.
And be inspired.
And also, too, you can give reviews on Facebook and Instagram as well. We got a message from a friend that we went to high school with the other day, a couple weeks back.
John Revenson.
And that's not actually his name. But it's just, I'll read it to you guys. It says, ran across your podcast the other day. Let me say, my bros, great work, and it's awesome to see your lives change for the better. Your podcasts have definitely jump-started me to get back on the wagon. Keep up the great work. And he said if he was going to, when he's in Cali, maybe we can have him on. So that might end up happening later down the road.
But then I told you, we'll just fly him out. I mean, just not a big deal.
It's on the budget. Yeah. But we really appreciate that. Like, it's just awesome to hear things like that. It jump-started my his walk or whatever is going on. I don't know personally what's going on with him, but it's cool.
That's not us, though. It's not us that's doing it. It's the stories that he's heard from our past guests. Yep. And that's the heart of the show. It's their story. It's the God story that they're telling. And when we hear these reviews and these messages like that, it's just so awesome. It's just we rejoice in that. So
yeah, for sure.
Thank you, Sean, for listening and just keep pushing, brother.
Yeah. So we're going to get into the episode here with Katelyn. She talks about her story and being a special needs mom of her son, my nephew Devin. It's just a really, really great story, and was some things were revealed to me in terms of just being more aware of the situation of special needs and how the church can be better in that. And they're doing some things, the early stages of it. So we just ask that you would keep them in prayer, Katelyn and Scott and their family, and the new things that they're going to get into the future. So without further ado, here's the episode with Katelyn Duran. Okay, we're here with Katelyn Duran.
What's up, girl?
It's me.
My sister. How you doing?
Doing good. How are you guys?
Doing very well.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
First time we have a sibling on the show.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
It's crazy.
You have any fun stories about Isaac and I, maybe?
Yeah,
growing up?
I do.
Was that going to be incorporated in?
I don't know if I want to hear this.
It wasn't. So freshman year, I was a freshman. You guys were seniors.
Uh-huh.
And my freshman boyfriend cheated on me.
Oh, yeah.
And what happened, but come lunch or break, I don't know what it was, here comes strolling Isaac, Drew, Dustin, Richie, all these huge senior guys.
Except for Drew.
But I mean, I don't know if I remember exactly, but I remember.
Yeah, remember we walked up to him?
Yeah,
Isaac,
no,
do you remember?
Yeah,
Isaac probably spearheaded it.
We started talking. Isaac's like trying to, intimidate him. And I'm talking to him and I'm telling him, like, oh, you messed up, man. You messed up with the wrong girl, like that. And then remember, he was looking at me. He said, "Don't look at me. Put your head down."
Good Christians.
That was
good
bad.
Christians.
We
had to stick up.
That was
for
a
you.
good story. Yeah. Thank you. I wasn't sure what the story was going to come out,
There
but
could probably be a lot of different
one.
ones.
Let's tell that one again.
Let's
put that one on repeat.
There's a lot of other ones, but that's a good one.
Keep those ones close to the vest.
All right. Well, with that nice little anecdote, why don't you get into your story?
All right. So just, you guys usually put a disclaimer out when, maybe some adult content is coming. And I want to do my own disclaimer that
we're going R, huh? We're going R, huh?
No. That I am extremely emotional.
Okay.
So just bear with me. There's probably going to be tears and no worries. So yeah, my story starts growing up in La Mirada, good old LM. Just growing up, a great life, great, no complaints, nothing. I always say I didn't have a choice. I just always knew God, which at the time when you're younger, like you don't realize how blessed you are. Like now I'm like, oh my gosh, like I always knew he was there, and I'm so blessed by that. And yeah, so just growing up, great childhood, besides my two older brothers, beating up on me, making fun of me.
Yeah, Drew had said they tortured you a little bit.
Yeah.
It was bad.
I think I was a little on the mean side.
Drew was. Justin, occasionally our oldest brother, would save me, so I like Justin more than I like Drew.
Don't worry, you're not his only victim.
But no, we were close, and I guess it was fun. But yeah, so just grew up in church, and I just always loved God. Always. Like I would sing worship songs in my room by myself.
That's
like,
sick.
What
was your favorite?
Oh gosh, probably Our God is an Awesome God. Remember that?
Our God is an awesome God, He reigns.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that one. But yeah, I just nothing, no complaints. And then freshman year, that's when our parents' things started to go on. Towards the end of freshman year was when our parents got divorced. And that was a huge, huge turning point for me. I was extremely close to my dad. I didn't have a very good relationship with my mom. So in the beginning, I was all for it, like wanting my dad to be happy, and I wanted to live with my dad. I didn't want much to do with my mom.
Drew talked about a little bit of in his story in his when Drew gave his testimony, but would you mind walking us through that a little bit, kind of the details of what happened?
Our stories are very different in how it happened. Unfortunately, my dad, I feel, had kind of manipulated me, and for months was telling me how unhappy he was with my mom. So by the time, and this was while he was cheating, so he knew what was going on.
Did you know what was going on?
No.
And he was telling you, he was complaining to you about his relationship with your
how
mom?
Unhappy my mom made him. So come time of, the divorce, everything came out, I still didn't know at the time. I just wanted my dad to be happy. I was like, yeah, like you should not be with mom. Dang. And I went to live with him for a little bit. Like I really wanted nothing to do with my mom. And then slowly things started coming out. The way they told you guys, my brothers, I wasn't there. I wasn't there when they sat them down and told them everything, like that my dad had cheated and all that, which I don't know why. And so my dad had told me separate, alone, just me and him. And so again, I feel that like that situation was a little bit manipulated because I didn't have my mom there crying. I didn't, you know what I mean? I just saw my dad's side. So for a while I was okay with it. But then something just clicked and I was like, I need my mom, you know, like not only do I need to be there for her, but like, I need my mom. And,
what was it that what was the thing that was kind of where you said you didn't have a good relationship with your mom? Well, why not?
So I have my own theories, but I kind of feel like I was such a daddy's girl that it might have hurt my mom to see that her only daughter was so close to like, you know, her husband.
But I think that's normal, though.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. It's hard. I can't say because I have two little girls myself, and my oldest, Kaya, she's just, you know, she's daddy's girl for sure.
But I was, you know, I have two older brothers, so I wasn't into dress up. I wasn't into dolls. I wasn't into shopping. So. And
you're the baby. She probably after Drew. She probably wanted
we're having this girl. Yeah. Like I can put her in dresses, bows. Like that just was not me. And then in return, I feel like, and again, this is just my side, so for sure. It could have been totally different, but I feel like she almost favored the boys then, and so that would get me mad too. Like, ugh, like you're gonna like the boys, well, I'm gonna draw even closer to my dad. So yeah, I mean, and she did nothing wrong. She was a great mom, you know.
For sure. Lisa's,
nothing like that. It's just that just happened, you know, and that's life. But we're good now. So.
No. So I'm sorry. So going back, and then you're in this situation where your parents are divorcing, and your dad's telling you one thing, and then you realize kind of like what really happened. Yeah. And so what happens?
So I decided that I wasn't going to speak to my dad. I would write him letters occasionally, just because it was such a emotional, hard situation for me. I literally could not speak. I could not like tell him. So I would write him. And yeah, that happened for a little bit. And then just realizing he wasn't coming back, I was like, okay.
Did you have hope that their relationship would be rekindled?
I did, because I was told they're going to therapy and this and that. And
what was the timeline of this? Like, how long did this whole thing go on for?
It was very long.
Wasn't that long? Yeah. No. So, but you're in high school, so you didn't have to. There wasn't like a custody thing where you had to go with him.
No.
On weekends or
something. They
something.
never did anything in custody.
Yeah, I think they just handled it all themselves. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure they had to go to.
Well, yeah.
Court or whatever for that.
Yeah, obviously, I'm sure mom was granted, like, you know, to take care of us, but. Yeah, I never had to.
Well, we were.
It was my choice.
I was already 18. Justin was older, so
I was younger.
You were the one that would have fell within that. So.
Yeah, but I don't remember. I think maybe I was asked like, "Oh, who do you want to live with?" or something, and it was probably like, "Oh, I want to be with mom."
What, if you don't mind me asking, what would you write to him about?
I would ask him. I would tell him like, how could you choose her over me? Just being that close. And just trying to understand his, his point of view and what was going on.
So where did this put you? Like with God at this point? I mean, you're pretty much your whole life that you knew.
Yeah.
Did you feel it was like a lie or?
No, I didn't, but I didn't turn to him, you know? Mm-hmm. I always knew he was there and I didn't doubt, but it was kind of like, how could you allow this to happen? You know, it was more so that. But, you know, I didn't go to church unless my mom, and I was younger though, so too. I didn't go to church unless my mom was going. And she did. We went to church together quite a few times, just her and I. But it just, I don't know, it just kind of wasn't the same. I was dealing with so much hurt and pain that, you know.
So all this happens, you're kind of in and out of church. Where's like kind of like the turning point, or where does this come to a head?
So I always knew I wanted a godly husband, a family who was raised in church. I'd always knew it, but obviously I made really dumb decisions along the way. And so, you know, a lot of time goes by, and I end up getting with my now husband, Scott. And
he's been on the show.
He's
episode 3.
One Story Podcast alum. Go check him out. And I just remember he grew up Catholic, so I remember letting him know, like, hey, like, I want to go to church. You know, I want to go. Let's just check it out.
How'd you guys meet again? I think he talked about it, but I forget.
We met in high school. We had one class together senior year, but we didn't start talking until out of high school, and it was actually football related that brought us together. Surprise, surprise.
Shocking.
Go ND, today's college.
Oh, yeah.
Football.
They're playing Michigan.
Yeah, that's right.
It's going to be a tough game.
Big game. Anyways, so we're together, and I just expressed my wanting to go to church. And like I said, that was a long time in between. I would go every now and then myself. Once I started driving at 18, I got my car. So just occasionally I would go all by myself. I would go to Costa Mesa, Rock Harbor. And so, yeah, I just always knew I wanted it. You know what I mean? But I guess I just really wasn't ready to surrender. And it wasn't until I saw Scott, like, be on fire for God that it just, like, reignited me.
Nice.
Like, just seeing him who didn't, like, grow up Christian or in church, just, like, I don't know, it just, like, blew me away. You know
that
what
was
I mean?
at Rock Harbor? Or by this time?
No, by this time we had been invited. We were going to Rock Harbor here and there. We started going to Fullerton, and then we got invited to Freedom House.
Okay.
And at Freedom House, that's where Scott gave his life to the Lord and just was like all in. So yeah, that's where I really like just found God again, you know, and found him for myself. And I think that was the biggest thing is growing up when you're raised in church, you can sometimes feel like it's not your choice, you know. And although I didn't really feel that way, but finding him for myself was just like amazing.
Yeah. Were you able to get any clarity from the divorce at that point, or? At
that point, no.
Because you were talking about when it happened, you know, thinking, not that you'd stop believing in God, but, you know, how could you let this happen? And
yeah.
Did that come later?
Yeah. Okay. So
we don't have to skip ahead.
No, it's okay. It's right around the time. So Scott and I just like immersed ourselves. We started taking classes that our church offered. We started serving. And so one of the classes we took is called Operation Life Change. And it was a 10-week class that you attended every Sunday. And so what you'd do is you'd break into groups, like small groups, so you could really like get more personal within your group. And it was always men and women separated in groups. And so I'm with my group, and we're talking about strongholds. So things that just have a hold of you that, you know, you can't let go. And so, of course, my stronghold is my parents' divorce and the hurt and pain, you know, from my dad. And I remember telling my group, I'm like, you know, like, yeah, I guess God could do it, but I mean, come on, like, he's not going to do it in 10 weeks. Like, he's not going to
something you've been carrying
like,
for years.
Yes, years. He's not going to do it in 10 weeks. And literally, I think like 2 weeks later, I ended up writing my dad and just telling him, I forgive you. I forgive you for everything, and I apologize for holding that much hurt and that much pain and that much anger against you.
Wow.
And like, and seriously, like, I mean, you brought up the letters and that was like real personal for me. And so, yeah, I got emotional, but, literally like the mention of my dad's name, anything about him, I would just be like in tears. And the fact that I can sit here today and tell you these things, like, it's God. It's only God.
You have peace.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, it brought a lot of clarity, and not only, you know, forgiveness for me to let it go and heal for me, but also to kind of understand, because, you know, I think I viewed the divorce worldly. How could this man do this to me? And I didn't see the spiritual behind it. How attacked he was, how, you know, a man of that influence, if something happens, the enemy knows it's going to affect many. And so now I can sit here and be like, wow, like, and feel sorry. Like,
yeah,
I wish, like, people could have been praying more for him, or, you know, I wish, you know.
I mean, either way, you know, you're going to make your decisions and we're going to do what's going to happen. But yeah, there was a target on his back for sure.
Absolutely.
But you're right too. I mean, that could have ended up you in disregarding God and or not believing in him at all, and maybe living a totally different life. It could have gone in so many different directions.
Yeah, for sure. And I always, the divorce is probably the best thing that could have happened to me. And I know that sounds super weird, because it brought the most pain and hurt that I've ever experienced. But I have an amazing relationship with my mom. And at a young age, I didn't notice or realize, but when you're a young woman and you start to become a little older, you need your mom for certain things. Like, I couldn't imagine my mom not being there on my wedding day and helping me, picking out my dress. I couldn't imagine my mom not being there for when my first child was born. Like, you just need that. And so I'm so thankful.
Was there a point during the divorce when you were with your dad, did you think that you weren't going to be part of your mom's life?
Not that I wouldn't be a part of her life, but
you weren't going to have the relationship that you have
like
now.
To me, it just didn't matter. It was kind of like, well, like, if we're cool, we're cool.
Did you think, were you kind of blaming her for that?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah, totally. Like, how could you push him to do this? You know?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That was my mindset.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at this point, you're in Freedom House with Scott. What's next?
So, by the time we are attending Freedom House, we already have our first son, Devin, and I'm pregnant with our second, Sean.
When was Devin born? What year?
Devin was born in 2013, August. So I'm pregnant with Sean. So then we have Sean. We take a little break from church.
Yeah, and that was there was a little bit of gap between Devin and Sean, right? What was that again? A year and 10 days?
Jeez. Scott.
Whoops.
That's God. That was not our plan. It was his. So they're super close. So then we end up having Sean, and we take a little break from church because we got a newborn baby. But then we just like jump right back in. So then basically what ends up happening outside of church is we start noticing that our oldest, Devin, who at the time was like 18 months, he had words. So he was saying like, mama, dada, up, and he's using them correctly. So I know a lot of times babies can babble and like they say dada, and it's like, okay, but they don't really know your dad. Like, he was using these things correctly. We started noticing that like digress a bit. So he stopped using his words. He wasn't making as much eye contact. And so we're like, okay, like, I wonder what's going on. Let's go to the doctor. So we go to the doctors, and the pediatrician is like, I think it's just like a speech delay. We should definitely get him in speech therapy. Really think that'll help. So we're like, okay, great. Let's start the process of that. We get him in speech, and we aren't seeing really any progress. And then at this point, we're realizing, okay, maybe it's not just a speech thing. Maybe it's something else. So April 2016, we take him to the neurologist, and Devin was diagnosed with autism. And just hearing that just broke my heart as a mom. You never want to hear that anything is wrong with your child.
Yeah.
And I think anyone can attest to that, any parent, and especially a mother. I think a mother's heart just really breaks for her children. So I just remember just my heart being broken and just so much unknown.
Yeah.
Right.
Like I knew what autism was in a sense, because I really didn't. But I heard about autism. But you don't know. You don't know what it's going to look like. You don't know what the future is. So there's just all these thoughts. And
it's all these thoughts that come all at once. It's like the moment they tell you.
Yes. And I just remember, oh my gosh, I remember like being like a mess, like crying. And Scott's over there fine. I'm like, what the heck is wrong with you? But the thing I love about my husband is that he's a man of faith. And he just knew like that it was okay. And
what were the emotions? I mean, were you angry or?
No, not angry, just hurt.
Yeah.
Just really, really hurt. And I just remember again, kind of like, but why? Like almost like those feelings again, like.
Was it something you did, or is that what you're thinking?
No, like, like just with the divorce, it's like, God, like, I love you. I know you're real, but like, why would you let this happen?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And, especially like being so involved in church and everything, it's like, man, like I'm doing so good. Like, why? But I have those doubts and those questions and all that. And then that same day, so we have our appointment. It's over at Chalk in Orange County, and we live in La Habra. So we're going back home, and I just remember being physically just like drained, emotionally, just physically, mentally, everything. And like we're talking about dinner, like what we're gonna do for dinner, and we get like a knock at the door, and Scott opens it up, and it's Lascari's, and there's a whole pizza, a salad, drinks, and the guy goes, "Okay, thank you very much." And we're like, we just look at each other, and to this day I have no idea who did that. But that simple gesture showed us that God cared. Even in our hurts, even in our doubts, God cared enough to say, you're worrying about something as little as dinner, here you go. And like, yeah, to whoever that was, completely.
Wow, it's amazing. It's amazing how God works.
Lascari's is legit.
Italian food.
Yes. So it was
great.
That's
just you hear those stories, and I mean, I don't know. It's just for God to care.
Yeah.
Just the smallest thing details, like that.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And then too, like it doesn't stop there. We at the next day we went to Disneyland and just kind of like clear our minds. Let's have fun and da-da-da. And at the time, we're just trying to save money. So it's like, oh, do we eat at Disneyland? Do we wait? We're like, oh, let's just wait. We'll wait. So we go home and we walk out of our garage. We have to you walk up some steps and there's like a little walkway. And at our door is another homemade meal and cookies. And it's just like, like, God, you're just taking care of us, And a few days later, we get 4 angel tickets to the Autism Awareness Night. And it was just amazing. It was just amazing, obviously, what God was doing, but also the community surrounding us and the support we got.
Loving on you.
Yeah. I could never thank everybody who reached out, who texted, who called, people who oh, I have a friend whose son, let me connect you to this. Like it was overwhelming. Absolutely. So even out of the hurt and the pain and the sadness was just coming so much joy and love and peace.
I'm sure as you're learning, I mean, then now you're finding out there's a whole community of different families or whatever the case may be that now you guys are getting connected with.
Yeah. And I think too, one thing about me is I've always been very open and honest, and I'll share everything with you, you know, like I posted on my social media, like, hey, we just found out Dev has autism, like, you know, and I think one thing I'm very passionate about is I have nothing to be ashamed of. I'm not embarrassed of my son. Like, my son is amazing. So yeah, I have always been very open, and I've always let people in, and I have nothing to hide. So he's diagnosed, and then it's like, okay, now what do we do? So we get different recommendations and whatnot, and we start early intervention. We get him into a therapy called ABA, which is applied behavioral analysis. It's a behavioral therapy. We have him in speech still, and then at 3 years old, he was in an early like intervention special education class. So he actually like went to school, and it was so sad.
At 3 years old.
Yeah, at 3, he was so tiny. But I mean, he did great. He's awesome. So, yeah. So this whole time I was dealing with that hurt and that pain still, just the unknown, not knowing what Devin's future would look like, you know. And so I spent countless Sundays just like going up to the altar and like just like bawling, or just like, you know, again, asking God why, or asking God for a miracle. Like, you know, like, Lord, I know you could, just one touch, just anything, and Devin could be healed, you know. And and I still believe that to this day. But I just wasn't understanding why.
Why not?
Yeah, why not?
Absolutely.
And then I remember, I'll never ever forget, I don't remember the date, but it was a Sunday, and our pastor was preaching a message. And one thing I love about our pastor is he always allows room for the Holy Spirit to move. So, you know, there was an altar call, people came up, and I'm up there, and he just says, you know what, for the next 30 seconds, let's just let the Holy Spirit speak to you. Let, you know, everybody just like listen. You know, he stops talking. The music is it's just the piano now playing nicely. And I'm up there, and I just hear God tell me, he says, Katelyn, Devin was my son before he was ever yours.
Dang.
And I have him, and he will be okay. And it just broke me. It just broke me to know that the pain that I'm feeling, like, doesn't even compare to what God feels for us, you know. And not saying that God was hurt because Devin, you know, has autism. No, this was God's plan all along. But from that day forward, I just knew. I just had total peace. And if I'm being honest, I don't know what God's okay is, you know, and I have total peace. I don't know if God's okay is Devin will never be able to live on his own. You know, maybe that is God's okay. I don't know if it'll be Devin will miraculously be healed, you know, but all I know is that he will be okay, and I'm trusting in him. And so, although that took place, which was just like a monumental thing in my life, I'm human, and so I still dealt with hurts and sadness and things that come along with a diagnosis like that. But then I was prophesied also by a friend she was actually a prayer partner too. And I would constantly ask our prayer group to pray for me, just the things that I was dealing with, like with Devin. And she wrote to me and said, Katelyn, like, I need to tell you this. God told me, and it's a lot more lengthy, but summarize. God told me that you have to go through these trials because you are going to be someone else's encouragement. Mm-hmm. You are going to be someone else's hope. You have to endure these things because you're going to help others. Like, I see your platform, and specifically, like, you're going to be helping other moms.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, wow, like, okay, I guess I'll take this on. I guess I'll endure, you know? And at the time, it's still hard. It doesn't make it easy.
Right.
But now I'm starting to see the fruits of that. And it is just, it's mind blowing. Mm-hmm. Just connecting with different moms, being able to help and encourage them. I just, like, it blows me away. And it allows me to see where I was and how far I've come. Yeah. And it's only by the grace of God.
Oh, yeah.
And it's only because He gives me strength.
Yeah, and it's only been two years since the diagnosis, right?
Yes.
A little bit more,
a little bit over. But
and just all of the things that have happened within that. And he's 5 now.
He's 5.
And I see some of the videos of his therapy and everything. It's just, it's pretty cool to see his growth. It's like, oh my gosh, just him talking. He's independently asking for things now. And I think too, when you have a child who has delays or disabilities, you just appreciate it so much more. So much more. The little breakthroughs, the little milestones.
Yes, like we celebrate every milestone. Awesome. Like when you have a typical child, you know, I think you can sometimes overlook those things. And Absolutely. Like for us, it's like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing. This is awesome, you know? Yeah. And honestly, he has just opened my eyes to just the most beautiful world ever. He's brought so much empathy and love and just understanding to my eyes. Like, oh man, I'm the first one to say, like, if it doesn't affect you personally, you just don't get it. And it's like, I would have maybe seen a child with special needs or adult with special needs and think like, oh, like, you know, like that's sad. That stinks.
Like, but you can't really feel,
you know,
the pain.
And now it's like I see those people and I'm like, wow, like, oh, like you're so special. You're so special. There's something so special and unique about you. And it's like one thing to, you know, I've had to do a lot of reading and just searching and understanding biblically, like why, you know, still that question, like why. I know, you know, I was prophesied, I'm seeing the fruits of everything now, but still there's that, like why. And I came across the scripture in John 9 verses 2 through 3. And the disciples are talking to Jesus and they say, Jesus, like, who sinned this man or his parents that he was born blind? And Jesus replies, neither his parents nor this man sinned. This happened so that the works of God could be displayed in him.
Dang, that's sick.
And I was just like,
it's powerful. Oh. That's powerful.
Like, there was nothing I did. There was nothing I could have done. Mm-hmm. This was God's plan for Devin. Yeah. And if it wasn't for, you know, God's plan, my life wouldn't have been changed. People's lives around us wouldn't have been changed. Like, honestly, it's for the works of God to be displayed. Yeah. And everything that I say and everything that I do, I give God the glory. Like, and don't get me wrong, it is hard. it is absolutely still hard.
Yeah.
It doesn't make it easy. It doesn't make it easy, the things that we have to go through, and just the challenges that we face. But, you know, there is just that assurance, and there's that grace, and there's that love from God. And there's that, I live my life with a daily surrender, saying, okay, Lord, I give it all to you. And that's what he wants us to do. Yeah. He doesn't want us to hold it. He doesn't want us to keep it in. He doesn't want us to go through the pain. He says, sons and daughters, like, give it to me. Lay it down at my feet, and I'll take care of it. Yeah. And that's how I live my life. And that's the only way I can, you know.
And I think that's like how you're saying when you were at the altar, when you had that breakthrough, when you heard his voice, and the thing is like you said, he knew what you felt. The way he said, like, give it, like, it's okay. And he's, trust me, right? You're saying, give it to me. Give me this. I know what you're feeling right now. Trust me. And then, but the thing is now, like you're saying, through your story, through your testimony, your experiences with Devin and your family, and you see another family, you can say, you got this. Like, I know how you can do the same thing God did with you, right? And just kind of be the reflection of God, right? In that moment, we're like, I know how you feel right now. This is gonna work out. Like, everything's gonna be okay.
Absolutely. And I just think that okay, and it's like everybody's okay is different, and that's okay too. You know what I mean? And
you know, I believe too. People believe different things, I'm sure, but you know, God, your pain that you were feeling, and probably still do, and whatever the case may be, you know, he feels that too. And there can be, you know, God has pain to see, you know, Devin, what he's going through. And it's not, I believe that we're in a fallen world. Sin has been brought into this world. And so the different things that we have to go through, whether it's, you know, the evil, you know, violence, that stuff, but also disease, and, you know, the things that are going on in the world are brought in because of the world system with sin. And so it's not, things aren't the way that they're supposed to be. So when Jesus came, he was healing and bringing about the kingdom of what eventually will be an ultimate healing of the world, that's going to come later, and we can have that hope. But there's still the pain that we have to go through in this life, whether it's, you know, what you guys are going through with your family, or all the struggles that we go through.
And the way the prayers are answered too, when you said you were crying out to God, and I experienced the same thing, where it's like, God, if you're God, you're like challenging him, right? You're like, if you're God, you'll do this. Like, you will do this. But he's answering prayer. It just doesn't look the way you want it to look.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean? But then when you start to, like you're saying, see it for a different perspective, and really understanding the plan and the purpose, not only for Devin, but for you and Scott.
Yes, absolutely. And I think too, like our church, we do the Daniel fast. So come January, every year we do a 21-day fast. And we write down, and we just pray and fast for what we're believing for. And since Devin, every single year, my prayer and fasting has been the same. And I've seen breakthrough, but I haven't seen, you know, like, I'm asking for the miraculous, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
And I believe that I should, you know.
Believe that it can happen.
Yes, absolutely. Sure. But, you know, I don't always see those answered prayers. But God always brings an answer, and it's always God's timing. And I realize, okay, Lord, like, if that first time I asked you, Lord, heal him right now, I would still look at people with disabilities and think, oh, that's sad. Yeah. You know, I wouldn't have the heart that I have. I wouldn't have the purpose that I have in my life.
That's good.
And it's just amazing what God can do if you just allow him to move, allow him to just come into your life and say, Lord, I give it to you. I want to live for you, and your will be done.
What a good understanding of how God works. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's strong.
Yeah. So then kind of going along with that, almost a year ago exactly, at our Freedom House conference, which is coming up. So anybody wants to go, you should check it out. we had one of our...
Me and Drew invited?
Absolutely. Everybody's invited.
Do you guys have MVP, though? MVP, VIP?
Why? You guys VIP?
I think so. I think we qualify.
Oh, boy.
We've had enough of you guys. The Freedom House.
Okay.
Lord, let's pray for him. All right.
I need that special badge.
So anyways, at conference, we had one of our pastors who's a really close friend of our church's. He's really helped our church grow and everything. His name is Pastor Obed. He's awesome. He was teaching a message, and it's in 2 Kings, and it's a story of the woman who lost her husband and had debt to pay, so they were going to take her sons away from her as the debt. And Elijah is there, and he says, okay, like, what do you need? How can I help? And she's telling him, they're going to take my sons. What do I do? I've already lost my husband. And he tells her, well, what do you have? And she says, all I have to my name is a bottle of oil. And he says, okay, I want you and your sons to go around and collect all the empty vessels from, your neighbors and everyone around you. And she's like, okay, I guess I'll do it. So they do it. And he says, go into your house, shut all the doors, just you guys. And I want you to take that bottle of oil and pour it into the vessels. He's like, just trust me. So I'm sure she's thinking, this is what I'm thinking. Like, oh my, you're crazy. Like, what are you even saying?
Right.
But, so then she goes and she does what he says, and she starts pouring the oil into the vessels. And sure enough, she fills up every single empty vessel with just her one jar of oil. And so she's like, they are all filled. And he's like, okay, go take that, and that's going to be your debt, and your sons are going to be okay. And so he's teaching this message, and the way he puts it is, what are you guys going to do to bring more empty vessels to God? And, specifically, like, what are you guys going to do that Freedom House can be pouring into these empty vessels? And God just spoke to me again and said, Katelyn, what are you doing? I love that you serve, but this is not what I've called you to do. And he spoke to me and said, you need to have a ministry that is going to support children with special needs and families. And I said, Lord, I don't want to invest that much time. Just being honest. And he said, well, I don't care. That's what you're going to do. And so it's been about a year. Like I said, conference is coming back up. And sure enough, we are starting the very early stages of making that happen. Mm-hmm. And again, I just think, Lord, like, if you wouldn't have given me Devin, this would never be happening. And it's like my husband and I were partnering together, and we're partnering with our church, which has just been so supportive and awesome.
And within that time, you had your third, little Kellen.
And that's another. I was pregnant at conference, and I was like, God, like, what?
I can't do this.
Yeah, no.
Got the time.
Yeah. We had my third, and even in the midst of that, we are starting it, and there's a statistic, and I think it's about 95% of churches don't have a ministry for children with special needs. Mm-hmm. And so these families are so broken and they're so hurt, but the one place they should be, and it's not that they're not allowed, it's just they don't have the support. Right. They can't have the support to go. And it's like, Lord just spoke to me. No, so funny on the drive here, Reckless Love comes on.
Love
and
that
it's
song.
Yeah, me too. And it's like,
shout out to
God,
Natasha Chang.
It's like, it's so true. Like, you will leave the 99. You will leave all of us who love you so much and want to do your work for that one. And it's like, to me, that's the one. In my life, I know everybody has their own purpose and their own views, but my one is these families and these children who should be spoken into the same exact way as everybody else, and it's amazing.
So what is it that your ministry's doing? What are you guys doing exactly?
So, our church is still small. So, what we want to provide is a one-on-one, we call it like a buddy, an older buddy to come alongside the child and just help them, whatever their needs may be. And honestly, our number one goal is that it's their spiritual needs. We're not there to babysit. We're there to really try to instill in them.
So this is for kids ministry?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. And then also I'm going to be stepping out and doing a connect group, which is kind of like a Bible study for us, for special needs moms.
Okay. Nice.
So I could really just pour into those women as well. So
nice.
It's like just living.
And this is just the beginning stages of it.
Yeah, very beginning. Yeah. Still working out all.
So you guys will be there on Sunday, right?
Logistics. Well, I will be there. Yes.
But it hasn't kicked off yet.
Yeah.
So maybe there'll be some future announcements.
Yeah, maybe we'll do something big.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's great. I mean, obviously, like you were saying, the 90% or whatever it is, the statistic, there's a need there for churches to be able to give a space for people with special needs, kids with special needs to come and enjoy a Sunday morning along with everybody else.
Mm-hmm. Or in the parents too, being worried about your kid and
how they're being taken care of.
Peace of mind. Yes,
so they can go to church and be fed.
Absolutely. Yes.
And then, I imagine you're probably going to get some people that wouldn't go to church, but they know that there's care there for their child, and they're going to bring, and then they can hear the word as well.
Absolutely. I'm telling you, knowing firsthand just that brokenness that you feel, these people need it. These families need it. These children need it. There's another scripture that really fuels us, and Jesus is talking, and he's talking about the children, and he says, let all the children come and do not hinder any of them. Mm-hmm. And it's
exactly
all of them, you know what I mean? So
whatever needs it may be.
Yeah. And so God wants it. Are you willing to step up and do it? And that's what we are. We're willing to do it.
Yeah, we're all called, but it's just a select few that are going to answer that call. So good on you guys. That's awesome.
I'm excited to see what's going to come of that and where it's going to grow and what it's going to look like, a year from now, 2 years, 5 years.
Man, that's awesome.
Could be something awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing.
Of course.
We appreciate it.
No problem.
Very good story.
Thank you. Sorry for
ours are a little
tears.
intertwined.
No. I remember my wife telling me about Devin. She had found out via social media, and kind of like what you're saying, but you don't even know what to think about. I couldn't even, because I kind of can relate a little bit, but it's just but you do think that what is their life going to look like? Because your life changed.
Yeah.
That, but from the outside perspective, you don't know what it looks like. And then for other people, like you're saying, just oh, that stinks, and then you move on with your life.
Yeah.
So I just think that's awesome that you get to pour into other people's lives and use your life and Devin's life as a testimony and to go ahead and continue to live that out. I think it's just beautiful. I love that.
Thank you. Yeah. Honestly, everybody who meets Devin or just comes in contact with Devin, they're just he's so joyful. And it's just God. It's God that radiates through him, and he has a calling over his life too, and I believe that. And I pray for that too. So
and it just shows the pain and suffering that is in this world because it's a fallen world, and because of sin, God can use it and bring out the light and bless people and bless you and your family and Devin. For what's going to come, the work that he's going to do through it.
Yeah.
Despite what's going on in the world and despite the evil, the everything, this is the good that's going to come from it.
It would be so easy for me. Oh, well, that's another thing too is, one thing I'm passionate about is letting people know, to not isolate yourself and don't compare yourself.
Don't be alone.
Yeah, you're that one postings. I don't know if you got it from someone else's, but you're talking about like parents with special needs, how it's just continually, as you go farther and farther, you become isolated because the play dates look different. Yours doesn't play the same. You can't talk with the moms the same way because you have to be with Devin because he might go run off or whatever. And then it's just more and more isolation. It's just it's painful to think, and the other moms, they probably don't even know how to deal with that, and it could look different, and you probably have some good friends that come alongside and help, but that's definitely a struggle, and to spread or shine light to that, I think is important, because I read it and I wasn't, I thought to myself, this is my sister, and we go over family parties, and I like to interact with Devin, but there's only so much, and so then you kind of do your own thing, and it's you and Scott that are, it's just, it was convicting for myself, in that.
Yeah, it's, the enemy will say no one understands, and he'll say just
you're alone.
Yeah, just don't even try, and then he'll bring that comparison in that, well, your life doesn't look like theirs. Like, look at their 3 boys. That's so different. Dang. And I'm just so passionate about, because I let myself be isolated. I let the comparison in, and I just want people to know, like, we are a family that does ministry. My husband and I both serve. We're leaders. Our children go to, the Freedom House Kids Church, and like, you can do it. You can do it. Sure. Is it hard? Yeah. Does it require a little bit more? Yes. But don't let something like this hold you back. Yeah.
And obviously you can hear, the faith that you have and the trust that you put in God, you and Scott, but this is going to be a lifelong thing, and there's going to be different,
it's
markers and seasons and, pain that it's
Absolutely.
Not. And that's the thing. Like, God doesn't tell us that coming to him, he's going to take away all of our pain and everything's going to be easy. He just says that in it, he's going to be right there walking with you.
Absolutely. We go through seasons. We have struggles, and then we have the victory, and we're like, yes. And then come next week, we have another struggle. And it's like, what? But it's like I said, living a life of surrender, saying, Amen. Lord, and also crying out, and literally, like, I cry out, and it's like, Lord, help me. Like, I need you. I cannot do this alone right now. I need you. And let me tell you, he always meets my needs. Always.
Sick. That's awesome.
Well, all right. Thank you very much again.
No, that was great. That's great insight. And I'm just thinking, for our listeners, I think you're able to kind of portray what your life is like with a kid with special needs. And that's great. Thank you for sharing. And thank you for just being very transparent.
Oh, of course. And also, too, anybody listening and wants to reach out, feel free to reach out to me. I'm all about, like I said, being open, honest, encouraging. I'll do the best that I can. But
no, that's good. Yeah, so if you're listening, direct message us on our Instagram or Facebook or
can you give your handle on Instagram?
At Mrs. Duran 234.
You had to think about it. No, but you'll be tagged on like our posts and stuff. But yeah, that's a really good point, because that's what we want to do too, is connect some of the people that are on the show. If you're listening and you're going through the same thing, or you want to, hopefully that might turn into something. Yeah. And then also we'll have you back when we'll get a little update on what the ministry has turned into down the road.
We have to do a couples. You and Scott.
We'll have both of them in.
We'll have an alum episode. You guys come together.
Yes, he has been right by my side every step of the way. For sure, he knows that this is really, really my calling. I know he feels called to it as well, but he's really supported me along the way and been awesome. So
it's his calling too. Okay, he needs to fully support.
Remember,
you hear that, Scott?
You
guys are one.
And then we'll bring Devin in too. He can come on.
Oh, Devin, he's so cute.
All right. Well, listeners out there, thank you again for tuning in, and I'm sure that you loved this story as you just finished it. Reach out to us. We want to hear your stories. Contact us on social media or email us onestorypodcast@gmail.com and all that good stuff.
And the One Story Podcast asks you to open your eyes, listen closely, soften your heart, and ask God to reveal himself to you. Amen.